Elizabeth Chappell, a lifelong entrepreneur who finally found my niche. After years of new ideas and jumping from business to business, I figured out how to turn a craft into a successful career. In 2016, I started a monthly subscription box for quilters. That little startup has grown into a thriving, multiple six-figure business that I am so proud of. As a published author, designer of fabrics and patterns being sold throughout the world, my favorite thing to do is to teach others how to grow a career of their dreams. Each week, you'll hear from me or from other guests who are creative entrepreneurs, so you can learn exactly what to do and what not to do to grow a career that's more rewarding and successful than you ever thought possible. If you're ready to turn your craft into a career that you love, I am so excited you're here. Welcome to the Craft to Career podcast. Welcome to the Craft to Career podcast. I am really excited to have someone on this week who has been on before. It's Shannon Brinkley. She is just quilter and businesswoman extraordinaire. She has been my mentor in the past, and she and I love chatting all things business. And she has a very exciting free event coming up for those of you who are interested in teaching, whether it's in person or online. Shannon has done a lot of this. This is how she has grown her business, which since then has grown and expanded into many more things. But Shannon has a free event coming up, and she is here to talk about her business, how she's grown her business, which is phenomenally successful, and how you can join this free event to learn, if you're like, I don't really want to grow a big audience. I just really love quilting and I want to teach. Or if you do have an audience, it doesn't matter. That's not a prerequisite. But if you are excited about the idea of teaching quilting, whether it's your own patterns, ideas, or if you want to she has a whole library of content that you can be certified to teach in as well. This is a really great opportunity for you. So before we dive in and we start chatting with Shannon, I want to remind you, if you aren't aware, there is a little competition giveaway going on for those of you who leave a review of the podcast on Apple Podcasts. So that's free. It's open and available to anyone. You just have to visit the Craft to Career podcast on Apple Podcasts and go and write a review for the podcast. And this is open till June 30th. I will be choosing 3 people who have written a review, and those 3 people will each win $100. So again, this is open to anyone. It's available to everyone. And you simply write a review for the podcast. I will announce the winners here on the podcast. This is available and open until June 25th. So it's again available and open to everyone and anyone. You just go to Apple Podcasts, go to the Craft to Career podcast and leave a review, write a review for the podcast. And I'm so excited to see that a few new reviews have just come in. One from Miss Porphyria. She is a fellow quilting Instagram friend. And she says, I have been trying to craft a career for myself, and I enjoy listening to the podcast and hearing all the ways that can assist me on my journey. I'm very excited that this is here. So thank you so much, Porphyria, for your review. You are entered. Everyone who has written a review ever, you are entered already. If you have not written a review for the podcast, just take a second to go do that. It's totally free and open for everyone. And now let's dive in and introduce you to Shannon. Shannon, it's so exciting to have you back on the podcast. You've been such a great mentor and cheerleader in my corner throughout my business, and I've really appreciated that. For our listeners, I'd love to have you just kind of share what you do in the industry and how it's evolved over time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me back, Elizabeth. I always love chatting with you about all things, but especially we just really can nerd out over business. And it's just one of my favorite topics. I'm so excited to be able to talk to you about it. So how the business has evolved over time. Yeah, I began back in 2012 is when I opened my LLC. And I initially was selling quilts on Etsy because I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to start a business with this niche that I found, quilting. Let's start selling actual physical products, which I feel like a lot of people think when they're first initially thinking about starting a business. I probably made no money. I probably lost money on it. But
Yeah.
but through that, because I was selling, I think, my baby quilts for like $150 or something like that. And you know how long it takes to make a quilt and how much the materials cost, but I wasn't doing the math on all of that. But what happened was that I was able to develop my quilting technique, my signature style scrappy applique, just really organically. And over time, then I really streamlined that. And then I was thinking, well, what if instead of making quilts, I then just started teaching people how to make these quilts that I, at the time, wasn't seeing anybody making anything like that. And so on a whim, I actually reached out to a publisher, C&T, and got my first book, Scrappy Bits Applique, published. And from there, started teaching and designing patterns. And so I started traveling around all over North America, really, teaching scrappy applique. And then I developed color confidence for quilters because I found that a lot of quilters were struggling with color, and then started teaching that as well. But then it got to the point where our team was getting more requests for me to teach than what I could actually provide. And at the same time, I was working with and mentoring some fellow quilt business owners or aspiring quilt business owners. And I kept getting the question of, yes, I want to share my creativity, but I don't know what to teach, and I don't know, how to get started. And so my husband and I together brought our brains together. He has a background in learning development and, developing IP and licensing it. And so we then developed our certified teacher program. And so then we've been training other people in our programs, and then they've been going out and spreading the word of spreading all the creativity everywhere, which is so much fun. And so that's really been a big shift in the business from me personally going out and traveling everywhere and teaching to then training others to do it as well. And then also the other areas of our business, Meander, and then art school, where we're really helping people to develop their own unique style. I'm all about helping, rather than just making like quilting, like paint by numbers. I want to help people explore their own creativity and take some of the frameworks and the tools and the techniques and then make something of their own. And so we've baked that into all of the programs in our company.
Yeah, which this will come out in the fall, but I just want to give a little plug that it is coming up. So I have the quilt pattern writing course. And then right after that, you're going to be launching the color or the style, coming up with your own style, which is crucial for someone who wants to really sell their own quilt patterns. And so those go really hand in hand together. I'm excited to share more about that with my audience when it comes. So we'll do that more as that gets closer. But I just want to put a plug out there for that it takes some time. And I love that you talked about at the beginning, you were selling your own quilts. And financially, it may not have been the most lucrative thing. It was pivotal in this process of you figuring out your style and like figuring out your business, exactly. And that's a crucial piece of the pie.
Business becomes so much easier when what you're doing naturally stands out, is unique, has its own kind of voice and signature, rather than just looking like everybody else's. It's a lot harder to sell your books or your workshops or your classes or patterns or whatever if it all just looks like everybody else's. And it's less fun.
It is less fun. Well, it's so fun to just take time to create and play and figure out, what do I like? How am I different than everyone else? I want to say New Mexico, is it Georgia O'Keeffe? Yeah, I went to the Georgia O'Keeffe Art Museum.
Oh, awesome.
And she talked about, she started painting and she was like, I knew I couldn't be as good as this other artist or this artist, but I could be the best me. And so she created her own signature, beautiful floral. And I love that. I was like, yeah, Georgia, you nailed that one,
There's something so powerful about, that's why artists make art, is for self-expression. We, as makers, we often identify a little bit more with the craftsmanship, which is beautiful and so rewarding and fun. And if you're able to weave yourself into it, even in small ways with the fabric selection and the shapes that you're creating and all of that, that then becomes art. So you're then combining that craftsmanship with the art. And then that is just, I think, so much more rewarding and fun.
Mm-hmm. It is. And then the marketing becomes easy because you're like, oh, I feel so passionate about this. I can share this.
It becomes compelling and magnetic.
Yeah. Yeah. And it draws your people who are like, oh, I love that. I'm here for that. But you also have coming up a free course, I guess, a free event that you're going to be talking about teaching, because there are a lot of people out there who are like, I really love quilting. I want to teach. I want to have a business, but I don't know what to sell yet. And I don't, either I don't have a signature style, or I don't really want to go out and promote me and myself and I don't want to, do all this thing about me. So can you talk about that aspect of business?
Absolutely. So teaching quilting, or whatever craft it is that you engage in, is my favorite business model in the craft industry for a lot of people, because it is, first off, it's really, really simple to begin, and really get your foot in the door. You don't have to carry a lot of inventory or deal with shipping. You don't even have to do really anything tech-wise if you don't want to. You don't need a website if you don't want to. You don't need a big social media presence or any social media presence. You can just get started with email and creating things just very, very analog, which is really compelling for a lot of people. It's a great way, one, to quickly start bringing in revenue. Really, there's 3 steps to it. Is choosing what and we can talk about these different ones, but choosing what you're going to teach and finding a workshop that, as we were talking about, is going to stand out from the crowd and be really compelling and desirable for students. So that's phase 1. And then phase 2 is really developing and streamlining the workshop and getting all of the bits and bobs together that is needed to run the business. Okay, we can talk more about that. And then it's just to start teaching. You start reaching out to quilt guilds, quilt shops, events. And I always encourage my students to cast a really wide net, to email 100 different quilt guilds. So most people probably in your audience realize this, but there's a quilt guild in about every town in America, and so many all over the world. There are quilt shops all over the place. There are quilting events everywhere, and national parks host events, community centers host events and workshops. And so there's so many different opportunities to teach. And so not only are you then it's a great business model from all of those perspectives. And we can talk about, the actual numbers and all of that. But it is being able to share your creativity with others, what lights you up. I'm sure everyone listening has something that they're making, that they're doing, that just is really fun for them. If nothing else, it's just fun, it's inspiring, and being able to share that with others it's like you're walking around with a candle, and then you're lighting all of these other candles, who then go and light other candles. And then your creativity creates this ripple effect that you don't even realize. I've had students come up to me and give me a huge hug, who had taken my class previously, and talked about how the workshop really helped them to get out of a creative rut. They were in this deep creative rut and feeling really dry and depressed even. And just the workshop was able to give them the confidence in themselves as a creative. And that just helped them to feel inspired again, felt purpose again. And I can't tell you how many similar types of stories that I've heard. And so it's extremely rewarding, and I love talking about it as a business model. So yeah, we're having a free workshop all about how to do that. It's called Teach. Coming up, it's a 3-day live event. And the first one starts on May 29th. So that'll be really fun.
Yeah. And so for someone who's like, I am interested in teaching, are they going to learn how to teach their own things, or are they going to learn to teach one of your programs? Like what different things will you be covering?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different options. And it's going to depend on your own personal preference. If you already have your own IP, your own intellectual property, your own workshops, content, things like that, then it's going to be a lot quicker because you can just skip that first step that I was describing. And then you'll be able to learn a lot about the business side of things. If you don't, I'm going to talk about then how you can find a workshop that is really fabulous, whether it is finding somebody else's IP that you want to support, you get the proper permissions, and then training if possible. And then included, I will be sharing about, we have limited slots opened for our certified teacher program that's opening up in June. And so I'll be sharing about that if somebody is wanting just like a business in a box to just like the whole enchilada just handed to them to make it really, really easy if they want it to go a lot faster. So there's a lot of different options about how you can approach it. And I'll be talking about all those in the workshop.
Okay. I really love that because sometimes people definitely have something that they want to teach, but sometimes they're like, oh my gosh, you have a program that I can teach and you just tell me what to do and I'll go do it. Because some people just, I mean, I have a sister who now is an empty nester and she's like, what do I do with my time? To have someone say, here, teach this, go do this. Oh, so you provide all of the above. They can choose which really works best for them, which is amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the programs that we created, I mean, it took years to develop a lot of all of these different programs. And so some of it you can then, if you do join the certified teacher program, you get to skip all of that and have all of these products that you're able to sell as well, which is and that's just a hot tip that if you're teaching, having physical products set that you can sell as well, or if you're teaching virtually, you can do either. That's part of the flexibility that I love about teaching is that you can, especially since COVID, a lot of guilds and shops and events are having these virtual events, workshops, programs. And so you can teach virtually if you'd like. You can travel and teach in person. You can do a hybrid. But having physical products or links to physical or digital products if you're teaching virtually, I found that my income when I was teaching in person, what I would make at each event would double with the product sales. So I had the fees that I charged for my program or my workshop, and then they would cover all the expenses. That's pretty much industry standard. That's a common question. And then when I would sell my books and patterns and things like that, that would end up, I would usually make about as much as all of my teaching fees. So it would just right away double my income, which was fabulous.
Yeah. I'm thinking if someone's like, well, I don't have my own books or patterns or fabric, they could buy it wholesale and sell that at wherever they're teaching.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's chat numbers a little bit. What kind of, I mean, it's a range, right? Depending on how much you go out there and do, but like, what could somebody realistically look at earning if they want to go teaching at these live events or Zoom, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, it's a range. These aren't guaranteed numbers. And it's a matter of really, doing the work to reach out and book these events, which I'll talk a lot about and teach. But as a general range, our students are making charging between $300 and $500 US for a program, typically around $400 to $750 or more for a workshop. Depending on the length of the workshops, there's different ways that you can structure it. And then the product sales often is somewhere, it depends on the size of the group, what your product sales are going to end up. But often I would find, and our students have found somewhere between $200 to $1,000 US dollars again for the event, for each event. And so if you start to do the math and figure out, okay, well then if you're reaching out to quilt guilds, for example, most of them are going to book a program and a workshop. And so then you'll have that plus your product sales. And so then if you think, okay, well then based on my own personal financial goals, how many events would I need to book per month or annually to hit those goals?
I love that. I also really appreciate that you just share a ballpark of the fees? I see a lot of conversations amongst people in the industry of like, I'm charging 200, but I want to charge 250. This fear of charging what they're worth, but just knowing, no, you really can, this is the going rate, you can charge and feel confident about it, especially having learned here's how to teach this and how to do well with it. Like feel confident that you are bringing value. They want what you're offering and there's a monetary value to that.
Absolutely. And I sat through, hundreds and hundreds of quilt meetings, guild meetings. So if your audience hasn't, someone in your audience hasn't been to a quilt guild, they have these business meetings. And I'm talking primarily about quilt guilds because that's where most of my students are teaching mostly, because there's a lot of opportunity there for quilters. But again, there's lots of different places that you can teach. But these guilds, they then share their finances at the business meeting. And I would sit through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. And most of them that I sat through had nice, healthy bank accounts. And very few people really batted an eye when I shared my prices, when I reached out to them. Every once in a while, I would have some people say, oh, well, that's a little bit outside of our budget. And that's okay. And I then also increased my prices gradually as I continued to teach and as the programs and events got better and better and better. And as I got a little bit more well known. And again, no one really batted an eye. There wasn't a lot of pushback. So don't hesitate to charge, as you mentioned, what you're providing, the entertainment, the inspiration for the evening. People are so excited about that. These events, I originally learned about this whole business model from Angela Walters. Early on in my days, we were speaking because she's a fellow CNT author as well, and we were talking about different ways that I could, kind of get out there a little bit more past just the book. And she shared with me that these guilds, they're looking for programming. These shops, they're looking for events. They're looking for workshops. And if you're able to make someone, because there's someone who's in charge of programming at each of these different entities, and they're busy just like everybody else is busy. And so if you make it easy and you reach out to them and say, hey, I have this really great workshop. Our students love it because of XYZ. Here's what your members are going to learn, what they're going to make. Are you interested? Let me know. Here, I'm booking for 2025 and 2026 or something. And they're excited. Plenty of times when you cast your wide net, you email 100 different guilds or shops or events or wherever. Plenty of people are just going to ignore you. Some people are going to say, no, thank you. But enough people are going to then respond and say, that sounds fabulous. That's really great. That's going to fill a hole in our calendar in September or whenever. And that's another thing. It's a lot of you and I know as business owners that there's not the financial stability piece is very different from when we had 9-to-5 jobs.
Oh yeah.
However,
yes.
When you are teaching, you sign a contract with all of these events. And so you can look and say, okay, I have 3 events booked in August and I have 2 events booked in October, but only 1 in November. And so you know exactly how much you're going to make. And then you can see, okay, I'm going to try to find another slot to fill in November, but you're able to plan in advance what your income is going to be, which is just huge for business owners.
As a small business owner, we know 2 things. We need a product to sell and we need people to buy it. But how do we actually get people to buy? Here is my little secret. Your biggest sales will come every time you send an email to your audience. That's right. Whether this surprises you or you already know the power of email marketing, one thing is clear. You need the right email platform. And that's why I use Flowdesk. Flowdesk is made for small business owners. And unlike most email providers, Flowdesk does not charge you the more your audience grows. Plus, creating beautiful, easy to read emails has never been easier. So if you are looking for a user-friendly way to collect email addresses and grow your audience, try Flowdesk. And with code QuiltersCandy, you will get 50% off your first year. Experience how easy it is to grow and nurture your audience with Flowdesk. Do you talk about the contracts? That's another conversation that I see a lot of people like struggle because they don't have a contract, or, oh no, that wasn't covered in the contract and now I'm stuck, da, 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 da. But you've done enough of these. I'm sure you help with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll talk about that briefly and teach. We do provide contracts for our certified teachers that they're able to use, as well as all of the other like print things that they'll need, all the materials list and class descriptions and all of the different little bits. But the key thing is that you're going to have a contract, and you want to have in there that what you're teaching, what the fee is going to be that you've agreed upon, and then what expenses they're going to cover. It's industry standard that they're going to cover, most or all of your expenses. I found they would always cover my food while I was traveling, lodging if needed, travel, whether it was by plane or the mileage if I was driving, the IRS standard mileage rate, and then even my luggage if I was traveling by plane, with the exception of if I had a bag that just had all of my products in it. And then also, like if I took an Uber to and from the airport or something like that. So that would all be covered. And so you want that clear in the contract. And then also what, if any, cancellation agreement there is, whether you have some kind of terms there. So those are the kind of key things you want to make sure is included. And a lot of guilds and groups will have contracts that they'll send you, and then you can just make sure that those are included, but also having your own contract that you can then create for others is going to be important.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm curious. You mentioned a little while back that you do not need to have a big social media presence. You have a healthy social media presence, but you've been doing this since 2012. You haven't always. So can you just share how you have sold? I mean, you touched a little bit about like you just reach out to these people, but are there other ways? Like, what are some tips for growing a business without having a huge social media presence?
Right. So in terms of teaching, if that's your business model, as I mentioned, you don't need to have a social media presence at all if you don't want to. You can, and that can be great. And that can be some ways that you get additional leads and additional bookings. However, you can just kind of hit the pavement and email a whole bunch of people. As I mentioned, cast that wide net. And then at first, it's going to be, for me, I found that the first year or two, I was doing that. I was sending out lots and lots of emails. But then after about that second year, more people I had taught at enough places and I did a really great job. And we'll be talking about this and teach too, how to deliver a really inspiring and engaging program and workshop that is going to just naturally create a lot of referrals. And so that word of mouth really spread. And so then by year 3, I wasn't reaching out myself initially. I had enough people reaching out to me saying, oh, we heard about you from so-and-so at this other guild, or they saw you here. And that word of mouth really spread, which was really powerful. And then as I was building my business, and I had then my own IP as well, though that's not required, I then started growing things on Instagram and had my own website and all of that, and was growing my email list. And so that was great to then build it to the level that it is now, but it's not required, especially at the beginning.
Yeah, which is very attractive when you're like, I want a business and I really don't want to be on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, so that there are possibilities there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's very liberating.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you can share names or non-names, but some of your past students and just kind of the experience that they've had going through this program and learning, what they could do.
Yeah. So off the top of my head, I'm thinking about Christy Naranjo, who she's based in California. Her background was in sales, but she had been a quilter and a knitter for many years, but she didn't have her own IP, but she loved just the idea of, she's very social, and she loved the idea of just being able to connect with other people, and then to share this passion that she has. And so she initially signed up, and she signed up for our Scrappy Applique Certified Teacher Program, and began teaching all over California. And then she came back and got certified then in the Color Confidence. And so then she's now going back. And that's another great thing. If you have multiple things that you're teaching, you can at the end of each event, when they inevitably, because you're going to do such a fabulous job and knock it out of the park, they're going to come up to you and say, that was so much fun. That was so inspiring. We had such a great time. You can let the programs person know, oh, that's great. I have this other workshop if you want me to come back. And that's another great way to get that repeat business. And so then that's what she's doing. She has her calendar booked out for the next 2 years. And it was funny. She'll regularly share with us that she's thinking, okay, I'm a little bit busier maybe than I want to be. I'm teaching even more which is a great problem to have even more events than maybe she's wanting. And so she was deciding to kind of cut things back a little bit so that she can also, create more too. But you have that flexibility to really set that schedule, which is really wonderful. I'm thinking about another student, Aura, who she first started teaching just locally. And then and that's something that I encourage our students to do, is to just start locally where you are, reach out to the different places around you, whether it's guilds, shops, etc., community centers, and then grow from there. So she just started teaching locally, and then she began broadening that, and then has been teaching internationally. So you can then travel as well, which is so much fun.
That is cool. Have you taught abroad internationally?
I taught in Canada, which was a lot of fun. I did a tour up there. Some of my favorite trips were where I had one booking and then we expanded it into multiple. So I'm thinking at the top of my head, I have 2 different just fabulous trips that my husband, Matt, was able to join me on. One was in Arizona, and I flew in and initially taught at I think the Phoenix Guild there. And then we had a whole circuit of the state planned out. And so then we hired a rental car there that the guilds all split. And so the guilds like this because then you're able to split all of those expenses. So it's cheaper for them ultimately. And so then we just went to multiple places all around Arizona. And we both just fell completely in love with the desert. Neither of us had spent any time there. We were thinking, oh, desert. Okay. But if you've ever spent any time in the desert, just the beauty that sinks into your bones. And we've been talking about it ever since. I think that was back in 2016. And so that was a really fabulous one that we went on together, and it was so much fun. And then also New Mexico, same thing. We flew into, and or actually we drove there because we were in Texas at the time. And our older son, Davin, joined us too. So it was a whole family road trip. And we went into Albuquerque, and then again, a circuit all around New Mexico, which was just so much fun, stopping and teaching at all these different places. So you can really, especially if you love to travel, it can be really, really fun, and you get to meet so many just amazing humans.
That is something that would be so fun for me. Like, this is a pie in the sky. Like, this would be fun. But like to go to Morocco or New Zealand and teach and have people come. Why not? Yeah. I just think it'd be, and what a cool thing to be able to do,
right.
Why not?
It's some coordination. You have to reach out to a bunch of these different places, but then especially if you get 1 or 2 booked, then you can say, okay, we've booked with this group and this group, and we're all going to split the expenses. So, and then it kind of becomes like dominoes at that point.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. Okay, this is a question that I wrote down earlier when we were talking, and I have my answer to this, but I'm very curious what you think your strong suit is as a business owner. Ooh. This is kind of a random question. I'm putting you on the spot here with a few things.
I'm game. My strong suit as a business owner is, I've been talking a lot about teaching, but it's teaching. I used to be an elementary teacher. And so it's just baked into who I am. I'm a Sagittarius too, like you. We're both kind of natural teachers and travelers.
Yep.
and adventurers. But yeah, I'm very good at taking what might otherwise be complex or jumbled and really simplifying it. That's where like the color confidence for quilters curriculum was such a fun thing to create, because I just started with the chat with the query of, okay, how can I teach something that to me is really intuitive, color, and how can I teach it to other people who maybe it's not as intuitive? And so and then it just kind of all unfolded from there. And so teaching is definitely my number one, I would say. How about you?
Yeah. Well, okay. I think that you're also very like business is intuitive for you.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I'm pretty good at business, but there have been conversations where I'm like, oh, how did she think about that? Like you're very good at seeing business opportunities, which is wonderful for this program because there are people who love the craft of sewing and quilting, but business might not come as naturally to them. And you can teach them, like teaching is your thing. You can help them. Even in this conversation, I think they've gotten a taste of that, of like, oh, this contract in place, reach out to these people, coordinate so they're all splitting the cost. You just very naturally think of, I would say, very accelerated business aspects of things, and then you can help others who that doesn't come naturally for to see that and apply it in their own business.
Absolutely. Yeah. I become obsessed with things, and business, digital marketing, all of that became one of those obsessions among many other things. And I learned as much as I possibly can about it. And then I want to tell everybody about it.
Yes. I do feel like we have a lot in common. I'm like, wait, Shannon, are you talking about me right now?
Right. Well, we're both Sagittarians, so that's part of it.
I know, right? It's very interesting. So just the details again, this free 3-day workshop you have, Teach. It's called Teach, Share Your Creativity for a Living. What are the dates again, and how can people sign up for this?
Yeah. So I'm sure you'll have a link probably in your show notes there. So that's how you sign up for it. Just click on Elizabeth's link, and then all you have to do is drop in your name and email. Again, it's totally free. And so it's a 3-day live event. There will be recordings that send out, but there's like a magic that happens when you come live. So do come live if you can. May 29th is when we kick off. Okay, so it's a Thursday, May 29th. And then the next two are then that following week at the very beginning of June. So June 3rd and June 5th. It's all on the page that you'll go to when you sign up, and we send you reminders and all of that, and a really fabulous workbook. Like I've put in all of my knowledge and experience myself teaching, as well as then mentoring all of these other teachers, and watch their businesses grow and thrive, which has been I can't express what a joy that's been. So be sure to bring a notepad, a pen, bring your workbook, because I've packed in a lot of great information, inspiration. And at the end of the workshop, you're going to feel really equipped to know, one, is this right for me? That's step one. Is this really right for me? And then 2, if so, how do I actually do this? I lay out a full blueprint about exactly the steps to take and exactly what you'll need to really launch and have success in your teaching business.
It's exciting just hearing this. I'm like, ooh, and I've been to your live events before. I know how much you deliver, and you have so much experience in this area that there's a lot of value. So even if you're thinking about maybe you do not want to miss this, like it's going to be an amazing 3-day event. And there is something magical about being there live. First of all, you get to have the interaction in the chat and like ask questions and hear their feedback. But there is just something extra invigorating about being live and in person.
There is. Yeah. There's an energy that just kind of feels palpable. And we have some fun giveaways and all of that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, I would say too, even if you're just a little bit curious, come join us and you can see if it's right or not. And you don't have to be an expert at all things. This is something I hear from people a lot. Well, maybe I've only been quilting for a few years, or I've just been, knitting or crocheting or whatever your craft is for X number of years. You don't have to be an expert in your entire craft. You just need to be a subject matter expert in what it is that you're teaching. Many, many times I was in rooms with women that had been quilting longer than I had been alive. and I knew that their craftsmanship was superior in a lot of different areas, and they probably knew a lot more than I did. However, I had this one great thing that was fun, that was inspiring, that they were really enjoying. And so even if they were super duper experienced, they had a ball and enjoyed the workshop and learned some things as well. And so know that you don't have to be a complete expert in all things. You also don't need to have a name in the industry, as long as you have something a recognizable name rather in the industry, as long as you have something that is compelling and a little bit unique, then you can really find success, as a teacher.
I really love that you touched on this. You don't need to be an expert in all of the things, because I have felt this in the past, and it's very liberating all of a sudden to just say, oh, I'm not sure about that. Mm-hmm. That's okay. You don't have to be an expert in all of the things, but this thing. And even if someone says, oh, that's not how I do it, you can say, oh yeah, there's many ways to approach it. This is how I've done it, and just share that this is how you do something. It doesn't have to be the only way to do it, but this is how you have done it, and you're a specialized person in how you do it, So
exactly.
That's been empowering.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing about this. And if our listeners want to learn more about you, where's the best place to go?
Yeah, they can come. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I love your passion and ingenuity and just relentless connecting and creativity around helping others to grow a business. You and I both are so passionate about what we do, and the fact that you're then constantly sharing about how other people can do this as well, I think is such a beautiful thing, and it's really inspiring to watch you. Yeah. They can come to shannon-brinkley.com is our website, and you can find me on Instagram, Shannon E, like elephant Brinkley, and come join us at the class. It'll be a lot of fun. But thank you so much, Elizabeth. This has been great.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure as always. Shannon, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. My goodness, I just love chatting with you. You have such an energy about you that is so authentic and real. And Shannon just gives and wants people to grow and accelerate. I mean, she and I are very similar in that way. So if this is something that you're interested in, visit the show notes. So you can go to my website. You can visit Apple Podcasts, Shopify. There's a link to join this free class and learn all about how to teach, how to grow your business as a teacher. So thank you so much for being here. And just a reminder to leave a review for the podcast. And we'll see you next week right here on the Craft to Career podcast.